Howdy folks, we're looking at Edge Magazine issue 20, released in May 1995, and I'm sorry for the glare, but I'm doing this at my work, but I still think it's clear enough. And we have Andy Warhol being featured on .NET, the internet magazine, on sale now. But let's look at the reviews. What does Edge have to say on the reviews this month? Well, this is just a quick abbreviation summary. So, Panzer Dragoon, a very pretty on-rail shooter for the Saturn, with majestic aesthetics, and Edge likes it a lot, which makes sense. So they give it an 8 out of 10. There would be a part 2 later on, and eventually the highly sought out Panzer Dragoon Saga, which is a role-playing game. Here we go. Lost Eden finally released. Edge had given a lot of preview sections to this, but it only gets a 5. Why? Well, because it's not that very interactive. It's, I would say it's an above standard click and carry adventure. It looks very pretty, and it has an okay story. That's what it was definitely going for. But other than that, yeah, it's not that much to write home on about actually. It's mostly an interesting time capsule to see how they tried to put FMV and still images, pre-rendered images into a game, kind of like Myst. Heretic being reviewed, and it gets an 8, so it's not as good as Doom, but it's a lot like it. I mean, this game has a fantasy element to it. You see there a demon, and obviously uses the same engine, and there are magic potions and the like. So, on to Killer Instinct, finally getting a review. For the arcade version, that is. And, well, I played this a lot in the arcade and the Super Nintendo. For some reason, I thought it was better than Street Fighter at first because it had more moves per character. But, no, it didn't really have the finesse that Street Fighter 2 had in the long run. It was fun trying to get big combos, though. Competitively, though, they would always get combo breaked, so you would stick to Street Fighter-like combos, which with as little hits as possible to do the maximum amount of damage without being combo broken. So Edge gives it an 8, and naturally they say the graphics are fantastic, even though they're not really 3D. So the 3D backgrounds are kind of pseudo 3D, and the main characters are sprites. So later on there will be Killer Instinct 2, which nobody played. And there's Exile. So this is an action adventure game released for the Commodore in 1989, but the Amiga version is shown here, released in 1991, and Edge loves this game. They would later on give a RetroView review in another issue, and give the game a 10 out of 10. Yes. So in this game, you land on a planet, and I think your job is to get the spaceship running again. And therefore, you have to go through all the levels and pick up all kinds of items. And I thought the gameplay was kind of annoying. It doesn't play like Super Metroid, even though you wish it would. Interestingly, though, there is gravity, so moving things about is a game on itself. I only played it for a couple minutes. I don't know what it's like to be a 10-year-old growing up with a Commodore 64 and having this game. This game would probably be the best thing ever for you. If you grew up in England, but I had a Nintendo as a kid, and I had Zelda and Castlevania games, and Those games play much more better and giving the same kind of sense of gameplay. 2 years later, there would be Zelda: A Link to the Past, around the same time the Amiga version was released. So I don't think I would have liked this game that much, even if I had it as a kid, because the Nintendo games giving a comparable experience, if not better. I didn't like the original Metroid though; it was just too hard, to be honest. Not very rewarding. I love Metroid 2 though, and that was released in 1991. Yeah, I think Metroid 2 is better than Exile from what I've seen, but that's up to your own opinion. And I love Super Metroid. But yeah, go ahead, check out Exile. Might be as good as Edge likes. I mean, if they made a remake for the 3DS, I'd probably play it, just to know what people are talking about. Hey, it's Nolan Bushnell, who has been around and knows a lot about video games, especially the old days, because he started it all, more or less. He saw Space War at a university and was like, hey, this I can use to make money. So he made his own version of Space War called Computer Space, which is not a one-on-one battle game, but you fight against UFOs flying around. But other than that, it's close. He, of course, made Pong a year later, which would become a huge success. And for years, everything in the arcades was trying to be a different version of Pong. He has a funny, interesting quote about Trip Hawkins, saying, I like to tease Trip by saying, gee, Trip, I found out with $3 million what has cost you over $100 million to find out. Namely that you can't sell software at a price of $700. He says that about $300 is you have to stay below that. And that's what PlayStation did at $299, even though you still have to get a memory card. So, yeah, he talks about how machines used to be solid state and more focused on the craft, but he's not that nostalgic. He likes the game of Myst for some reason, which I find hard to believe because Myst, but he's having a good time playing it. Oh, this glare. If I went like this, would that be better? Yeah. There he is with his dog, I believe. And here's the question about whether games are better now or not. Of course, he also made the Atari VCS 2600, which would dominate the marketplace until Nintendo came around. So the Q&A section, people asking, will the Saturn be different in Europe than in Japan? More or less the same, except the 50 hertz was a thing, but I believe some games that you choose. Somebody asking, what's up with the Vectrex? What is that? Well, you should know. I mean, it's the Rolls Royce of video gaming, right? I should have looked up what Edge had to say as an answer. I'm going to do that after this video. Should be fun. And there we have it for Edge Magazine number 20. Next month, this looks like Daytona. Oh, it says Daytona, yeah. And but this is before they implemented the, I think this is the Curve with Sonic or not? No, maybe it was the Curve before that. Anyhow, so yeah, Edge is going to visit AM2, but also Nintendo and see Miyamoto. That should be good. Miyamoto. In the back, we have a silly dog from Heart of Darkness. So that was Edge 20, and I'm going to, if you care to stay, I'm going to look up the answer to the Vectrex. Might as well keep this rolling, right? So Andrew Crenshaw asked the question. Here. This Vector Graphics gaming system was Milton Bradley's attempt at wrenching market share from Atari, whose VCS was in wide use in the early 80s. The machine used an upright monochrome monitor with colored plastic screen overlays supplied with each game. Its software includes Web Wars and Spike, one of the first games to include speech. That's all I have to say about the Vectrex. Well, I mean, it looked fantastic and had the best arcade game ports at the time. Okay, folks, see you at Edge 21.